what does the actual meeting look like? It should start with introductions. Introductions of family and friends should include the relationship to the patient, and introductions of the medical team should include each person's role. Next is a discussion of the meeting's goals, both the patient and family's goals, and if they're different, the medical team's goals. In order to make sure everyone is starting the meeting off on the same page, ask the patient or the patient's family to summarize their understanding of the situation at hand. After that summary, I like to commend them by saying something like, "That's a really great summary. I'm pleased that our team has been keeping you up to date and that you've been so engaged in your care here," assuming, of course, that's true. You should then correct significant misconceptions or omissions, if any are present. Now, at this point, don't nitpick terminology. Just correct big picture stuff, like the patient's spouse thinks that chemotherapy has been working well when actually new metastases have been identified. Stuff like that. You want to be sure that the patient and family has an accurate understanding of the situation, but you also want to avoid lecturing them. This is also a good place to provide some positive reinforcement. For example, you could say to the patient's spouse, "It's been really incredible to see how supportive you and your family have been during your wife's illness." Then provide any updates. At this point, before discussing the decisions to be made, ask the patient and/or family, "What questions do you have?" And then comes the actual discussion of the decisions. This is a point when you want to really minimize how much you're talking and should aim to facilitate discussion between the family members. Try to engage everyone present. If one member of the family has been kind of quiet, it may be because that person does not have a strong opinion, or it may be because they are afraid their opinion is not important, or that it will upset the others. But if a person is important enough to be at the meeting in the first place, their opinion is important enough to hear. While not everyone always agrees on the decisions made during a family meeting, everyone should be aware of one another's perspectives. If the patient is not able to participate in the discussion, prompt the family to speculate what they think the patient would say if he or she could. You want the family to be able to distinguish what they want from what they think the patient would want. This will be more challenging for some individuals to do than for others. Don't be afraid to make a recommendation, but ask the patient or family first if they want a recommendation. Some families may get upset if you insert your opinion before they've had a chance to consider the situation themselves. Sometimes a major decision will be made right there during the meeting, and that's great and wonderful, and you should run with that. But sometimes it's deferred, and that's perfectly okay. But if a decision is deferred, try to establish a time frame for making it. For example, "Ms. Smith, I understand a decision about entering hospice is very difficult, and that you might not be prepared to make it right now. Would it be okay if I checked in with you tomorrow afternoon after you've had a chance to think it over and talk with your family?" Along those lines, explicitly lay out next steps, maybe even listing relevant action items for those present. As a general rule, by the end of the meeting, the patient and/or family should have spoken at least as much as the medical team. So that's it for family meetings. While this framework and these pearls aren't complicated, they do take some practice to perfect. But hopefully, you'll now be starting off on the right foot.